Every single day, he did the same thing, the same routine, the same habit, the same quiet mistake that millions of people repeat without a second thought. He was 71 years old when his heart gave out. And I was his doctor. I watched it happen. I saw the warning signs. And I have to be honest with you. Because the truth is, I should have been louder. I should have pushed harder. What I'm about to share with you today is the conversation I wish I had with him years earlier. Because this habit, the one that killed him, is something you are probably doing right now. Today. Maybe even this morning. Most people are told that heart attacks come from genetics, from bad luck, from years of poor diet. And yes, those things matter. But there is one specific daily behavior, something completely ordinary, something that feels completely harmless, that is quietly destroying the arteries of millions of Americans over 60. And your doctor, in a routine 10-minute appointment, almost certainly has not told you about it. Stay with me until the end of this video because the number one habit I'm going to reveal today is responsible for more cardiac events in people over 60 than smoking and high cholesterol combined, according to data from the American Heart Association. And yet almost nobody connects it to heart disease. That disconnect is what's killing people. I'm Dr. William Ashford, a physician specialized in senior health with over 15 years of dedicated clinical experience. I've sat with thousands of men and women over the age of 60 in my office, reviewed their charts, held their hands after scary diagnoses, and watched some of them recover completely while others didn't get the chance. What I'm about to share goes against everything you've been told about heart health. The pharmaceutical industry wants you focused on your cholesterol numbers. Your insurance company wants you taking a pill. But I've seen the real patterns, patient after patient, year after year, and I refuse to stay silent any longer. If this information seems valuable in the first 30 seconds, hit that like button right now. Because what I'm about to tell you could genuinely save your life, or the life of someone you love. Here's what's happening inside your body right now, and why this matters more after 60 than at any other point in your life. After the age of 60, your cardiovascular system undergoes changes that make it dramatically more vulnerable to certain stresses. Your arterial walls become less elastic. Your heart's electrical system becomes more sensitive to disruption. Your inflammatory response, which is meant to protect you, starts working against you. Research published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that adults over 60 experience a 43% reduction in arterial flexibility compared to adults in their 40s, 43%. That means your blood vessels are already under strain. They are already compensating. And when you layer a damaging daily habit on top of that compromised system, day after day, for years, the results are catastrophic. And here's what terrifies me most. The habits I'm going to talk about today don't hurt. They don't produce symptoms. They don't send up red flags. They feel like nothing at all, right up until the moment they don't. Let me walk you through the most dangerous daily habits that are silently attacking the hearts of seniors across America right now. I've ranked these from serious to absolutely critical, and I want you to pay close attention as we get closer to number one, because that is where most of the damage is being done. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. How old are you? Are you in your 60s, your 70s, maybe beyond? If you take any kind of daily medication, even something as simple as an over-the-counter pain reliever, type heart in the comments below. Let's see how many of us are in this together. Number 7. Sitting for more than 8 hours without moving. I know what you're thinking. This sounds like something from a wellness magazine, not a serious cardiac warning. But I want you to hear me out, because the science here is genuinely alarming. A landmark study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine tracked more than 8,000 adults and found that those who sat for more than 8 hours a day without breaks had a 64% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to those who sat for less than 4 hours. 64%. And this risk did not disappear even in people who exercised regularly. You can walk for 30 minutes in the morning and still be damaging your heart if you spend the rest of the day in a chair. Here's the mechanism. When you sit for prolonged periods, blood begins to pool in the lower extremities. Your leg muscles, which act as a secondary pumping system for the cardiovascular network, go completely dormant. Circulation slows. Inflammatory markers in the blood rise. A protein called C-reactive protein, a key indicator of arterial inflammation, spikes significantly after just 90 minutes of uninterrupted sitting. And after 60, this effect is dramatically amplified. Your circulatory system no longer has the reserve capacity it once did. What was manageable at 40 becomes dangerous at 70. The fix here is almost embarrassingly simple. Every 45 minutes, stand up, walk to the kitchen, walk to the window, walk to the mailbox. 3 to 5 minutes of movement every hour can reduce your cardiovascular risk from prolonged sitting by up to 31%, according to research from the European Heart Journal. Pro tip: set a phone alarm for every 45 minutes. Label it simply, something like heartbreak, because that's exactly what it is, a break that protects your heart. Number 6, skipping water in the morning. Your body loses approximately 1 liter of water while you sleep, through breathing, perspiration, and cellular processes that continue around the clock. When you wake up, your blood is thicker, your vessels are working harder, your heart is pumping against greater resistance before you've even put your feet on the floor. This state of mild morning dehydration is something most seniors experience every single day without realizing it, and the consequences accumulate over time in ways that are deeply troubling. A study from the Loma Linda University Medical Center found that people who drank 5 or more glasses of water daily had a 41% lower risk of dying from a heart attack compared to those who drank 2 glasses or less. 41%. From water. Something completely free. After 60, the body's ability to sense thirst declines significantly. Research from the Journal of Gerontology confirms that older adults are physiologically less capable of detecting dehydration before it becomes clinically significant. You may not feel thirsty, but your blood, your vessels, and your heart are already under stress. The morning window, specifically the first 30 minutes after waking, is the most critical hydration opportunity of the day. 2 full glasses of water, taken before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else, can reduce morning blood viscosity and give your heart a dramatically easier start. What to avoid? Reaching for coffee first thing. Caffeine is a mild diuretic. If your first act of the morning is a cup of coffee on a dehydrated body, you are compounding the stress on your cardiovascular system before the day has even begun. Number 5, taking anti-inflammatory pain relievers daily. This one is deeply uncomfortable for me to talk about because I have prescribed these medications. Millions of seniors rely on them. NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, including common over-the-counter options like ibuprofen and naproxen, are taken daily by an enormous percentage of adults over 60 for joint pain, arthritis, and general aches. But here's what the research is telling us, and what most of your doctors are not emphasizing clearly enough. A 2017 study published in the British Medical Journal analyzed more than 400,000 patients and found that regular NSAID use was associated with a 20 to 50% increased risk of heart failure, depending on the specific drug and dosage. A follow-up meta-analysis from The Lancet confirmed that even short-term, high-dose use significantly elevated the risk of major cardiac events. The mechanism involves 2 pathways. First, NSAIDs cause the body to retain sodium in water, which raises blood pressure. Second, and more critically, they inhibit an enzyme called COX-2, which plays a protective role in vascular function. When COX-2 is suppressed daily over months or years, the arteries become more vulnerable to the kind of inflammatory damage that leads to plaque buildup and, ultimately, heart attack. I want to be very clear. I am not telling you to stop a prescribed medication without talking to your doctor, but I am telling you that if you are reaching into your medicine cabinet every morning for a pain reliever as a matter of routine, that habit deserves a direct, explicit conversation with your physician about cardiovascular risk. There are natural anti-inflammatory alternatives with strong clinical evidence, including omega-3 fatty acids, turmeric with piperine, and magnesium, that do not carry the same cardiac risk profile. Ask about them. Now I want to tell you about a patient of mine. His name was Robert. He was 68 years old, a retired electrician from Chicago. Biggest Bears fan I've ever met. He came to my office about 4 years before he turned 71, and he had the kind of energy that made you think he was going to outlive everyone in the room. Strong handshake, loud laugh. He was in genuinely good shape for his age. But Robert had a bad hip. Nothing surgical, just chronic inflammation, the kind that gnaws at you when you wake up and when the weather changes. And for years, maybe 6 or 7 years before I met him, he had been taking ibuprofen every single morning, not prescribed, just a habit he'd developed. 2 tablets with his coffee, every day like clockwork. It helped him get moving in the morning without wincing. When I first reviewed his file, I flagged it. We talked about it. I explained the cardiac risk. He nodded, told me he'd cut back. I believe he tried. But the pain was real and the pills worked, and it's hard to change a habit that your body has come to depend on. 3 years later, Robert had a massive myocardial infarction. He was 71 years old. He died before the paramedics arrived. His wife called me that afternoon, and I sat in my office for a long time after that call, going over every appointment, every conversation, every moment where I could have been more insistent, more creative in finding him a solution that worked without the risk. I share this story not to frighten you, but because Robert deserves to have his story matter. His habit was not dramatic. It was not reckless. It was a quiet, ordinary daily routine that nobody talked about loudly enough. And I refuse to let that be the story for anyone else watching this video. This was not bad luck. This was preventable. And you can make a different choice right now. Number 4. Eating the main meal late at night. Your cardiovascular system does not operate on a flat 24-hour clock. It follows a rhythm, a circadian pattern, in which certain functions ramp up and others wind down based on time of day. And your heart, specifically, is significantly more vulnerable to metabolic stress during the evening and nighttime hours. A study from the European Society of Cardiology found that adults who consumed more than 45% of their daily calories after 5 in the evening had a 23% higher risk of major cardiovascular events compared to those who front-loaded their calories earlier in the day. In a separate Spanish cohort study tracking over 20,000 participants, late dinners, specifically after 9 p.m., were associated with a 28% higher risk of heart attack and stroke. After 60, this effect intensifies because of changes in insulin sensitivity. Your body's ability to process glucose efficiently drops sharply in the evening. When you eat a large meal at night, blood sugar spikes are more pronounced, insulin response is less effective, and the resulting glycemic turbulence puts direct oxidative stress on the arterial walls. This isn't about eating less. It's about eating earlier. Moving your largest meal to midday and keeping dinner light and early, ideally before 7 p.m., can meaningfully reduce cardiovascular strain without requiring you to change what you eat at all. Pro tip: if you're hungry after 8 p.m., a small handful of walnuts or a few slices of avocado can satisfy the urge without triggering the metabolic cascade that a large late meal creates. Both walnuts and avocado contain compounds with proven cardioprotective properties. Number 3. Chronic unmanaged stress without a structured outlet. I want to be careful here because when doctors talk about stress, people often tune out. It sounds soft. It sounds like lifestyle advice. But what I'm describing is a hard physiological mechanism with direct, measurable damage to the cardiovascular system. And in people over 60, it is one of the most underestimated killers we face. Here is the science. When you experience stress, whether from a difficult relationship, financial worry, health anxiety, or even chronic low-grade irritability, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. In short bursts, this is adaptive. In chronic daily doses, it is devastating. Elevated cortisol over time causes arterial inflammation, raises blood pressure, promotes abdominal fat accumulation, and degrades the inner lining of the blood vessels, the endothelium, which is the single most important protective barrier between your blood and your arterial walls. A study published in Circulation, one of the most respected cardiovascular journals in the world, found that adults with high levels of chronic psychological stress had a 48% higher risk of fatal coronary events. 48%. That is not a marginal risk. That is a defining risk factor. And here is what makes this particularly dangerous for seniors. Many of the stressors that affect people over 60 are not dramatic crises. They are ambient. The quiet worry about a child's health, the loneliness of a spouse having passed, the low hum of financial uncertainty, the fear of losing independence. These stressors don't announce themselves. They simply run in the background, 24 hours a day, slowly and silently eroding the cardiovascular system. The research is clear that structured daily stress reduction, not vague relaxation but specific practiced techniques, can reduce cortisol levels by up to 22% and meaningfully lower cardiovascular risk. This includes 10 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing in the morning, regular social connection even by phone, deliberate engagement in activities that produce flow and absorption, and in some cases, structured journaling. I'm not asking you to eliminate stress. I'm asking you to give it a container, a daily practice that processes it rather than letting it accumulate. Let me tell you about Linda. Linda was 72 years old, a retired nurse from Boston. She came to me not because she felt sick, but because she was scared. Her husband had died 18 months before, and she had developed what she described as a constant low-level anxiety that never fully lifted. She wasn't sleeping well. She wasn't eating well. She had stopped attending her church group because she didn't have the energy to perform okayness in public. Her blood pressure, which had been beautifully controlled for years, had climbed to a consistently elevated range. Her resting heart rate was elevated. Her inflammatory markers were up. Nothing was catastrophically wrong. Everything was trending in the wrong direction. I didn't prescribe a new medication. I had a different conversation with Linda. We talked about grief and cortisol. We talked about what chronic loneliness does to the heart, quite literally, at a cellular level. I referred her to a grief support group at the hospital, suggested a 10-minute morning breathing practice, and asked her to call one friend every single day, even just for 5 minutes. 8 weeks later, her blood pressure had dropped 14 points. Not through medication, through a change in her daily emotional routine. She told me at that appointment, "Doctor, I didn't realize that being lonely was something I needed to treat. I thought it was just how things were now. I didn't know my heart was paying for it." This was not a miracle. This was her body finally getting what it needed, and you can experience exactly the same thing. If you're finding this helpful, please hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the practical health content we share every single week. And I want to make one more request. Think about someone in your life, a parent, a sibling, a friend, who is quietly carrying stress and loneliness without addressing it. Share this video with them. You might be starting a conversation that genuinely changes the course of their health. A simple click can matter more than you know. Number 2, ignoring disrupted sleep and treating it as normal aging. I need to push back on something that has been accepted as conventional wisdom for far too long. The idea that poor sleep is simply a normal and inevitable part of getting older is not just inaccurate. It is actively dangerous, because it causes millions of seniors to dismiss a major cardiac risk factor as something not worth addressing. Here is the truth. Poor sleep is not a symptom of aging. It is often a cause of accelerated aging, and it is one of the most powerful predictors of cardiovascular disease we have identified in the last 2 decades of research. A landmark meta-analysis from the European Heart Journal reviewed data from over 1 million adults across multiple long-term studies and found that sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night was associated with a 48% increase in the risk of developing or dying from coronary heart disease. 48%. The same analysis found a 15% increase in stroke risk. The mechanism is multi-layered. During deep sleep, your blood pressure drops in a process called nocturnal dipping, which gives your arterial walls essential recovery time. When sleep is disrupted, fragmented, or insufficient, this dip does not occur, and the arteries remain under elevated pressure through the night. Over months and years, this continuous pressure accelerates arterial hardening, promotes plaque formation, and dramatically increases the risk of cardiac events. Sleep disruption also triggers inflammatory cascades. Interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor, 2 key inflammatory proteins implicated directly in coronary artery disease. Both spike significantly after even a single night of poor sleep. Chronic elevation of these proteins is associated with unstable arterial plaques, which are the plaques most likely to rupture and cause a heart attack. And here is the part that most seniors don't know. Many of the sleep problems experienced after 60 are not inevitable. They are caused by addressable factors. Inadequate magnesium levels, which affect more than 60% of American adults and are frequently lower in older populations. Undiagnosed sleep apnea, which affects an estimated 30% of adults over 60 but is diagnosed in only a fraction of that group. Elevated cortisol from chronic stress, which directly suppresses the melatonin signaling that initiates sleep. Medication timing, because certain common medications taken in the evening disrupt sleep architecture in ways that are well documented but rarely discussed. If you are waking multiple times per night, struggling to fall asleep, or waking exhausted despite spending 7 or 8 hours in bed, please do not accept that as your new normal. Please bring it to your doctor with the same urgency you would bring chest pain, because at the cardiovascular level, the consequences are comparable. Pro tip: a small dose of magnesium glycinate, between 200 and 400 milligrams taken 30 minutes before bed, has been shown in multiple clinical trials to improve sleep onset, sleep depth, and sleep duration, particularly in adults over 60. It is one of the most evidence-backed and underutilized interventions in senior sleep health. Number 1. Chronic low-grade dehydration combined with morning exertion before drinking water, specifically in the context of high-salt diets, all happening before the blood has thinned after sleep. Actually, let me be direct with you, because I've danced around it long enough, and Robert deserves a more honest ending to his story than I've given so far. The number 1 daily habit that is killing seniors, the one I see at the root of more cardiac catastrophes than almost anything else I've described today, is this. Starting every morning in a dehydrated, high-viscosity blood state with elevated cortisol from poor sleep, and then consuming stimulants, specifically large amounts of caffeinated coffee combined with a high-sodium breakfast before the body has had any water, any movement, or any cardiovascular warm-up at all. I know how common this is, because I have asked thousands of patients to describe their morning routine. And the pattern that emerges over and over with remarkable consistency is this. Wake up, feel groggy, go directly to the coffee maker, drink 1, maybe 2 large cups of strong coffee. Sit down with a breakfast that often includes processed meat, salted bread, canned juice, or fast food. Then sit some more, and within that first 90 minutes after waking, the cardiovascular system has been hit with a combination of stimulants, salt, and continued dehydration that produces a perfect storm of arterial stress. Here is what is happening physiologically. During sleep, your body consolidates fluid, and your blood becomes measurably more viscous, thicker, and more prone to clotting. Morning hours, specifically between 6 and 10 a.m., are already the highest risk window for heart attacks, which is not a coincidence. The body's circadian rhythm produces a natural surge in cortisol and blood pressure during this window to facilitate waking. This surge, in a healthy cardiovascular system, is manageable. But in a dehydrated senior with arterial stiffness, elevated inflammatory markers, and poor sleep, that morning cortisol spike combined with caffeine and sodium creates a dramatic and dangerous spike in blood pressure and arterial wall stress. Research from the American Journal of Hypertension found that morning blood pressure surges, specifically the sharp rise in the first hour after waking, were the strongest independent predictor of cardiovascular events in a study of over 2,000 adults over 60. Stronger than average blood pressure, stronger than nighttime blood pressure. The morning spike was the number 1 predictor, and the habits I've just described, the dehydrated awakening, the immediate caffeine, the high-sodium breakfast, the extended sitting, are all direct contributors to amplifying that spike. This is not a story about coffee being bad for you. Moderate coffee consumption has legitimate cardiovascular benefits in many contexts. This is a story about the sequence. It is about what you put into your body in what order during the most vulnerable window of your cardiovascular day. I want to tell you about James. James was 75 years old, a retired firefighter from Denver. He had a heart of iron, or so he believed. And given his professional history, that belief was not unreasonable. He was a big man, physically active well into his 70s, no family history of heart disease worth mentioning. James came to me 3 years ago for what he described as occasional morning dizziness. Not severe, not alarming. Just a floaty, slightly unsteady feeling for the first 20 or 30 minutes of the day. He had blood pressure readings that were high normal, not yet in the treatment range, but consistently elevated in the mornings. I asked him to walk me through his morning routine in exact detail. He woke at 6. No water. He went straight to the kitchen, brewed a large pot of very strong coffee, poured a 20-ounce mug, and sat at the kitchen table where he ate 2 strips of bacon, 2 eggs fried in butter, and 2 pieces of toasted white bread with salted butter. He did this every morning, had done it for decades. His wife did the same, and she was fine, he told me. I explained to him what was happening inside his arteries during that morning window. I showed him the research on morning blood pressure spikes. I explained the combination of dehydration, caffeine timing, and sodium load. I gave him a simple protocol to try for 30 days. 2 glasses of water before anything else. Wait 15 minutes. Then coffee if he wanted it. Modify the sodium at breakfast. Walk for 5 minutes before sitting down. He was skeptical, but James was a man who respected evidence. He came back in 6 weeks and his average morning blood pressure had dropped 11 points. His dizziness had almost completely resolved. He was astonished. He told me, "Doctor, I've been a firefighter for 30 years. I know about risk, but nobody ever explained my morning routine to me the way you just did. I thought I was just getting old." That was 3 years ago. James is now 78. He sends me a message on his birthday every year. He is still walking, still largely independent, still drinking his coffee just in the right order and with a glass of water first. James is here. Robert is not. The difference was not genetics. The difference was information and what you do with it. Now let me tell you exactly how to implement everything we've discussed today because I don't want this to feel overwhelming. I want it to feel manageable. Because it is. Starting tomorrow morning, here is your new routine. The moment you wake up, before your phone, before your coffee, before anything else, drink 2 full glasses of room temperature water. This single act begins the process of diluting the thickened overnight blood, reducing arterial resistance, and giving your heart an easier first hour. Then move. Not exercise, just move. Walk slowly to the other side of your home. Go outside for 5 minutes. Walk up and down your hallway twice. This activates your leg muscles as circulatory pumps and helps distribute morning circulation more evenly. Then, if you want your coffee, have it and enjoy it. But have it after the water, after the movement. For breakfast, shift toward lower sodium options. Oatmeal instead of processed meat. Avocado on whole grain instead of salted deli products. Your arteries will feel the difference within days. Set a timer for every 45 minutes throughout your day and stand up briefly each time it goes off. If you are taking daily NSAIDs, schedule a specific conversation with your doctor about cardiac risk and alternatives. Bring up sleep quality at your next appointment as a cardiovascular concern, not just a comfort issue. And every day, in some form, process your stress deliberately. 10 minutes of slow breathing, a phone call with someone you love, a walk outdoors with no destination. Give your cortisol system a daily release valve. Within 3 days, most people notice improved morning energy and reduced grogginess. Within a week, morning blood pressure readings often begin to moderate. Within 2 weeks, sleep quality frequently improves as cortisol levels begin to normalize. Within 30 days, the changes become visible to the people around you. Your doctor may begin to comment on your numbers at the next visit. Do not make these critical errors as you begin. First, do not change your medication without medical supervision. Everything I've discussed today is additive, not a replacement for prescribed treatment. Second, do not try to change everything at once. Pick 2 or 3 changes and build from there. Consistency is worth infinitely more than perfection. Third, do not dismiss poor sleep as fixed or inevitable. Bring it to your doctor, specifically and firmly, as a cardiovascular concern. You are not broken. Your morning routine is broken. Your information was incomplete. That changes today. Let me close with something I want you to really hear. We've gone through 7 habits today, ranging from prolonged sitting to morning dehydration and caffeine timing, from NSAID overuse to chronic stress to disrupted sleep. Every single one of these is modifiable. None of them require surgery. None of them require expensive medications. All of them are within your control beginning today. My main message is not fear. My message is what it has always been with every patient I've sat across from in 15 years of practice. Empowerment. You now have information that most people never receive until it's too late. You can use it. Here is my challenge to you. Commit to 2 glasses of water before your coffee every single morning for 30 days. Just that, just 30 days. Notice what changes. Notice how your energy shifts. Notice your mornings. Notice your body. Your heart will respond. I promise you that. Robert didn't know. James did. That was the only difference. You know now. And that knowledge is yours to keep. If this video helped you, please do not keep it to yourself. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. My mission is to give you clear, evidence-based health information designed specifically for adults over 60, without the filter of what the pharmaceutical industry wants you to hear. And share this video. Think about the person in your life who starts every morning with coffee before water, who takes ibuprofen every day for an aching knee, who hasn't slept well in years and has accepted it. Send this to them. A single click from you could be the beginning of a conversation that changes everything for them. And now, I want to hear from you. Which of these habits do you recognize in your own morning routine? What are you going to change first? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and your answer might be exactly the encouragement someone else needs to make a change. Because aging does not take away your body's ability to recover and adapt. It simply asks you to be more intentional about what you give it, and you are more capable of that than you have been led to believe. Take care of yourself.